The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES Prometheus. Admiral Sarah Chun stood at the main window, watching the blue and white lights of Kepler Station grow larger as her ship moved closer. 50 years ago, humans had never seen an alien. Now she was about to attend the most important meeting in human history. Chun touched the datapad in her uniform pocket. Inside were the formal papers asking for Earth to join the Galactic Confederation. The request had taken 5 years. To write, every word had been checked dozens of times. Every offer had been debated by the smartest people on Earth. This was humanity's chance to become full members of the galaxy's oldest alliance. The Admiral was 62 years old. She had spent most of her life watching humans and aliens learn. To trust each other, it had not been easy. When the first alien ships arrived at Earth, many people had been afraid. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to hide. But wiser minds had chosen a different path. Captain Martinez walked up beside her. He was Chun's second in command and her oldest friend. They had served together for 20 years. The final approach. "Begins in 10 minutes, Admiral," he said. Chun nodded. "Are our diplomatic teams ready?" "Yes, ma'am." "Ambassador Williams has been reviewing the proposals all morning?" "The medical team has their presentation prepared. The engineering group finished their demonstrations yesterday." The Admiral smiled slightly. Those demonstrations had impressed many alien species. Human engineers had solved problems that had troubled the galaxy for centuries. They had found new ways to clean polluted atmospheres. They had designed better ship engines that used less fuel. They had created medical devices that could heal injuries that were once impossible to treat. "What about the opposition?" Chun asked. Martinez's face became serious. "The Zephyrians are still pushing against us. They claim humans are too aggressive, too unpredictable. They say we advance too quickly and cannot be trusted." Chun had heard these arguments before. The Zephyrian Empire was the oldest member of the Confederation. They had helped create the Alliance 3,000 years ago. Their species lived for hundreds of years. They moved slowly and thought even more slowly. To them, humanity was like a young animal that might bite without warning. "Do we have enough support?" she asked. "The Altarians are with us completely. They remember how our doctors saved their colonies from the Red Plague. The Centauri Federation supports us too. Our trade agreements have helped their economy grow. The Andromedans are neutral but leaning our way after we help them build their new space habitats." Chun remembered those events well. 7 years ago, the Red Plague had appeared suddenly in Altarian space. It killed quickly and spread faster than any known disease. The Confederation's best medical minds could not stop it. But human doctors had worked day and night to find a cure. They had saved over 2 billion Altarian lives. The Centauri situation had been different. Their star system had rich mineral deposits, but their ships were old and slow. Human engineers had designed new mining equipment that worked 3 times faster than the old machines. The Centauris had become wealthy, and they had not forgotten who helped them. The Andromedan project had been the most challenging. Their homeworld was dying and they needed new places to live. But building space habitats required technology that most species did not have. Humans had shared their knowledge freely. Now millions of Andromedans lived in beautiful orbital cities that humans had helped design. "What about the smaller species?" Chun asked. "Most of them support us. The vegan collective appreciates our agricultural improvements. The Sirius Commonwealth likes our communication technology. The Rigel Union is grateful for our help with their energy crisis." These were not just business deals. Humans had given their knowledge away without asking for payment. When the vegan worlds faced food shortages, human farmers had taught them new growing methods. When the Sirius planets could not talk to each other across their solar system, human engineers had built communication networks. When Rigel's main power source began to fail, human scientists had designed clean fusion reactors, the bridge communications. Officer turned toward them. "Admiral, we are receiving a message from Kepler Station. They are ready to begin docking procedures. Acknowledged. Begin final approach." June felt her heart beat faster. Everything depended on the next few days. The formal vote would happen in 72 hours. Each of the 17 Confederation species would cast their decision. Humans needed at least 12 votes to join. The datapad in her pocket contained more than just membership papers. It held humanity's promises to the galaxy. They offered to share all their medical knowledge. They promised to help any species that faced natural disasters. They agreed to open their research stations to alien scientists. They even offered to help defend Confederation worlds if they were ever attacked. Some humans had argued against giving so much away. They said aliens should pay for human knowledge. But Jane and the Earth government had disagreed. Trust had to be earned. Friendship required sacrifice. If humans wanted to be accepted as equals, they had to prove they cared about more than just themselves. The Prometheus moved smoothly toward the docking bay. Kepler Station was enormous. It had been built in neutral space between several star systems. No single species controlled it. The station served as the Confederation's capital and meeting place. Representatives from all 17 species lived and worked there. Chun looked at the alien ships around the station. She could see the elegant white vessels of the Altarians. The massive cargo ships of the Centauri Federation sat next to them. Further away were the strange crystal ships of the Andromedans. Each design reflected the nature of the species that built it, but she also saw the dark ships of the Zephyrian Empire. They were large and heavily armed. Their black hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. These ships reminded everyone that the Zephyrians had once been conquerors. They had built their empire through war before they learned the value of peace. Docking complete, the communications officer announced. Chun straightened her uniform and picked up her formal hat. Captain Martinez, you have command of the ship. I will contact you after the opening ceremony. Good luck, Admiral. The whole human race is counting on you, Chun smiled. No pressure at all. She walked to the airlock where her diplomatic team waited. Ambassador Williams stood ready in his best formal clothes. Dr. Sarah Kim led the medical team. Engineer Robert Jackson headed the technology group. These were some of Earth's finest minds. The airlock opened and they stepped into Kepler Station. The corridors were wide and tall to accommodate different alien body types. The air smelled strange but clean. Artificial gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. Alien beings moved through the hallways. Chun saw tall, thin Altarians, with their silver skin and large eyes. Short, broad Centauris walked past wearing their traditional blue robes. A group of Andromedans floated by in their crystalline, environmental suits, but she also noticed how some aliens looked at the human delegation. Most seemed curious or friendly. A few appeared worried. Others showed clear hostility. The Zephyrians especially watched the humans with suspicious eyes. As they walked toward the main conference hall, Chun thought about how far humanity had come. 50 years ago, they had been alone in the universe. Now they were asking to join the galaxy's greatest alliance. In 3 days, they would have their answer. She hoped it would be yes. But she was prepared for whatever came next. 3 months had passed since the opening ceremony. Admiral Chun walked through the corridors of Kepler Station feeling more hopeful than she had in years. The negotiations were going better than anyone had expected. Species after species had spoken in favor of human membership. The Altarians had given an emotional speech about how human doctors had saved their children from the Red Plague. The Centauri Federation had shown detailed reports of how human technology had improved their mining operations. Even some of the smaller species that Chun had worried about were now supporting Earth's application. Ambassador Williams met her outside the main conference hall. His usually serious face showed a rare smile. Admiral, I have good news. The vegan collective just announced their support. That brings us to 11 confirmed votes. June felt relief wash over her. They only needed one more vote to join the Confederation. What about the Andromedans? They are still discussing it in their council chambers. But their representative hinted that they are leaning toward yes. The space habitats we helped them build have been very successful. And the opposition? Williams's smile faded. The Zephyrians are still fighting hard against us. They have convinced 3 other species to vote no. But that still leaves us with enough support if we can get the Andromedans. Chun nodded. The Zephyrian Empire had been their biggest obstacle from the beginning. Their supreme archon, a being named Kethver, had spoken against humanity in every session. He claimed that humans were too young and too dangerous to join the ancient alliance. What arguments are they using now? Chun asked. The same ones as before. They say we advance too quickly. They claim our technology is unstable. They argue that we have not proven ourselves over enough time. Williams paused. But I think their real fear is that we will change things. The Zephyrians have controlled Confederation policy for centuries. They do not want to share that power. The 2 humans entered the conference hall. It was enormous, with seating for hundreds of delegates from 17 different species. The ceiling rose high above them, covered in stars that showed the location of every Confederation world. Chun took her seat in the human section. Around her sat the best minds Earth had to offer. Scientists, diplomats, engineers, and doctors, who had worked tirelessly to bring humanity to this moment. The session began with routine business. Trade agreements were discussed, border disputes were settled, scientific discoveries were shared, but everyone knew that the real focus was on the vote that would come in 3 days. Supreme Archon Kethver spoke first when the human membership topic was raised. He was tall and thin, with dark gray skin and eyes that seemed to see everything. His voice carried the weight of 3,000 years of Zephyrian authority. Honored delegates, he began, we must be careful about who we allow into our ancient alliance. The humans have shown some useful skills, this is true. But they have also shown dangerous tendencies. They solve problems by changing everything around them. They do not respect the old ways. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The Zephyrians had used similar arguments against other species in the past, but those species had all proved themselves worthy over time. Ambassador Williams stood to respond. Respected Archon, humanity has demonstrated nothing but peaceful intentions. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have helped solve problems without asking for anything in return. We have shown that we can work with species very different from ourselves. Words are easy, Kethver replied. Actions over long periods of time are what matter. How do we know that humans will not become aggressive when they have more power? How do we know they will not try to change our traditions? The debate continued for hours. Other species spoke both for and against human membership. Chun listened carefully to every argument. She could see that most delegates genuinely supported humanity, but she could also see the doubt that Zephyrian arguments created. The session ended late in the day. Chun returned to her quarters feeling tired, but still hopeful. Tomorrow would bring more discussions. The day after that would be the final vote. She believed humanity would succeed. She was reviewing notes when the explosion happened. The blast shook the entire station. Emergency alarms began screaming. The lights flickered and went out for several seconds before backup power restored them. Chun grabbed her emergency communicator and contacted the Prometheus. Captain Martinez, report. Admiral, we felt the explosion from here. It came from the central hub of the station. Emergency crews are responding now. Chun ran from her quarters toward the central hub. The corridors were filled with smoke and confused aliens. Some were injured and bleeding. Others helped carry the wounded to safety. The smell of burned metal and something worse filled the air. When she reached the hub, she saw devastation. The main plaza where delegates gathered had been destroyed. Bodies lay scattered across the floor. Some moved weakly. Others did not move at all. Chun saw Altarians, Centaurs, Andromedans, and members of other species among the dead and wounded. Emergency teams worked frantically to help the survivors. Medical crews treated the injured. Security forces tried to determine what had happened. The beautiful plaza where species from across the galaxy had met in peace was now a scene of horror. Admiral Chun, a security officer called her name. He was a centauri with blue skin and worried eyes. "You need to come with me immediately." "What is it?" "We have found evidence. You will not like what we discovered." The officer led her to a security station near the damaged plaza. On the screens, she saw security footage from before the explosion. The images showed humans in areas where they should not have been, humans carrying equipment that looked suspicious, humans who appeared to be placing devices in hidden locations. "This cannot be right," Chun said. "These must be fake images." "We thought so too," the officer replied. "But we found chemical residue from the explosion. The materials match compounds used in human industrial processes, and we intercepted these communications." He played audio recordings that made Chen's blood run cold. Voices that sounded human discussing the attack beforehand. One voice said, "The delegates need to understand that humans are not to be underestimated." Another replied, "Acceptable losses. We must send a strong message." More evidence appeared over the following hours. Weapons with human serial numbers found in the wreckage. Computer files that seemed to show human operatives planning the attack. For weeks. Communication logs that painted humanity as terrorists who had infiltrated the station to eliminate their opponents. Chun watched in growing horror as the evidence mounted. Every piece pointed to human involvement in the bombing. But she knew it was impossible. She had been watching her people carefully. No human would do such a thing. Supreme Archon Kethver appeared on the station's communication system. His face showed anger and satisfaction at the same time. "Fellow delegates," he announced, "the truth about humanity has been revealed. They came to us speaking of peace and friendship, but they planned murder and terror. This is what happens when we trust species that have not proven themselves over long periods of time." The response was swift and terrible. Within hours, the vote was canceled. The Confederation's High Council declared that humanity had revealed its true nature. Not only would Earth be denied membership, but all humans would be expelled from Confederation. Space immediately, Ambassador Williams protested their innocence. The human delegation demanded a proper investigation. But their words fell on deaf ears. The evidence was too strong. The betrayal was too complete. As human delegates were escorted from the station under armed guard, Chun caught sight of Zephyrian intelligence officers near the security station. They were speaking quietly among themselves. One of them looked directly at her and smiled coldly. In that moment, Chun understood the truth. The bombing had been carefully planned. But not by humans. The evidence had been planted. The communications had been faked. The Zephyrians had orchestrated everything to destroy humanity's chances of joining the Confederation. But understanding the truth did not help. The damage was done. As the Prometheus prepared to leave Kepler Station forever, Chun realized that humanity's dream of galactic friendship was over. What would replace it, she did not yet know. The news reached Earth 3 days after the Prometheus left Kepler Station. Admiral Chun stood in the emergency meeting room at Fleet Command, watching the faces of Earth's leaders as they learned what had happened. President Martinez looked older than his 70 years. Defense Minister Park stared at the table with empty eyes. Foreign Secretary Williams had tears running down his cheeks. "They believe we are terrorists?" Chun said quietly. "Every species in the Confederation now thinks we planned and carried out the bombing. The evidence against us was perfect. But we know it was fake," President Martinez said. "We know the Zephyrians set this up. Can we not prove it?" Chun shook her head. The evidence looked real to everyone who saw it. The Zephyrians had years to plan this. They knew exactly how to make it look like we were responsible. "What happens now?" Defense Minister Park asked. "All trade between Earth and Confederation worlds stops immediately. Human businesses throughout their space have been shut down. Our people have been arrested or forced to leave their homes. Ships carrying the human flag are being turned away from every Confederation port." The room fell silent. For 50 years, humanity had built relationships across the galaxy. They had established colonies on distant worlds. They had created businesses that employed millions of people. They had made friends among dozens of alien species. All of that was now gone. How many of our people are trapped out there? President Martinez asked. At least 2 million civilians, Chun replied. Some are in Confederation prisons on terrorism charges. Others are trying to find transport back to Earth. Most have lost everything they owned. Foreign Secretary Williams looked up from the table. What about our allies, the Altarians? The Centauris? Surely they do not believe we would bomb civilians? They want to believe we are innocent, but the evidence is too strong, and the Zephyrians are pushing hard. They are telling everyone that humans cannot be trusted, that we planned this attack to force our way into the Confederation through fear. Chun activated the wall display. It showed a map of human space and the surrounding Confederation territories. Red zones marked areas where human ships were no longer welcome. The red covered almost everything outside the Sol system. It gets worse, she continued. We are seeing increased military activity along our borders. Confederation patrol ships are stopping and searching any vessel that might be human. Some of our cargo ships have simply disappeared. Disappeared? Park asked. Lost contact? No distress signals? No wreckage found. But we have detected Confederation warships in those areas around the same time. President Martinez stood and walked to the display. They are not just isolating. U.S., they are testing us, seeing how we will respond. Chun nodded. The Zephyrians are being very careful. They make it look like defensive actions. They claim they are protecting themselves from human terrorism. But I believe they want to provoke us into doing something aggressive, something that would prove their claims about our dangerous nature. Over the following weeks, the situation grew worse. Human colonies near Confederation space reported strange equipment failures. Atmospheric processes stopped working properly. Communication satellites went offline. Food production systems developed mysterious problems. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been part of the diplomatic mission, now led teams trying to fix these problems. She reported to Shun from the colony world of New Geneva. Admiral, this is not random equipment failure. Someone has been sabotaging our systems. The damage patterns are too precise, too targeted. Can you prove it was done deliberately? Shun asked, not in a way that would convince a court. But I have studied these machines for 20 years. They do not break down like this naturally. Someone with advanced knowledge of our technology has been interfering with them. Similar reports came from other human colonies. Mining equipment on Kepler 5 stopped working, leaving thousands of workers without jobs. Water purification systems on New Ceres began producing contaminated water that made people sick. Power generators on Freedom Station developed faults that nearly caused reactor explosions. Each incident could be explained as accident or natural failure, but together they painted a clear picture. Someone was systematically attacking human infrastructure. While making it look like bad luck, the worst incident came 6 weeks after the bombing at Kepler Station. The medical ship Hippocrates was carrying vaccine supplies to treat a plague outbreak. On the world of Zerium Prime, the plague was not in Confederation space, but close to their border. The local population had asked for help, and humanity had responded as they always did. Dr. Kim was aboard the Hippocrates when Confederation patrol ships intercepted them. The alien commander demanded to search the vessel for weapons and terrorist equipment. This is a medical mission, Dr. Kim told them. We are carrying vaccines to save children who are dying from plague. You can scan our cargo if you wish. Humans cannot be trusted, the Confederation commander replied. You claim to bring medicine, but you may be bringing biological weapons. We will board your ship and search everything. The search took 6 hours. Confederation troops went through every supply container. They tested every vial of vaccine. They interrogated every member of the medical team. Finally, they seemed satisfied that the ship was carrying only medical supplies, but as the Hippocrates continued toward Zerion Prime, more patrol ships appeared. These were Zephyrian vessels, darker and more threatening than the first group. Medical. Ship Hippocrates, the Zephyrian commander announced. You are carrying biological weapons in violation of Confederation law. Prepare to be destroyed. We are carrying vaccines. Dr. Kim protested. Your own people just searched us and found nothing illegal. The search was not thorough enough. Humans are clever at hiding their weapons. We cannot allow you to reach your destination. The first missile struck the Hippocrates before Dr. Kim could send another message. The medical ship was not built for combat. It had no shields and no weapons. The explosion tore through the cargo bay where the vaccines were stored. Dr. Kim managed to send one final transmission. They are murdering us. We came to save lives, and they are murdering us for it. 200 people died when the Hippocrates exploded. Doctors, nurses, medical technicians, and ship crew. All of them had volunteered to risk their lives bringing healing to alien children. None of them had ever hurt anyone. The Zephyrian report claimed that the ship had been destroyed while trying to deliver biological weapons. They said the explosion proved that dangerous materials had been aboard. They congratulated themselves for stopping a terrorist attack. Admiral Chun watched the news. Reports from her office on Earth, the Confederation media praised the Zephyrians for their vigilance. Editorial writers discussed the cleverness of human deception. No one mentioned the children on Zarian Prime, who would now die because the vaccines never arrived. Chun called an emergency meeting of Earth's military commanders. When they gathered in the secure briefing room, her face was hard as stone. The Confederation has declared war on us in everything but name, she said. They are destroying our colonies, murdering our civilians, and calling it self-defense. We cannot continue to pretend this is just a misunderstanding. General Rodriguez, commander of Earth's ground forces, spoke first. What are you proposing, Admiral? I am proposing that we accept reality. The Confederation wants us gone. The Zephyrians will not stop until every human in the galaxy is dead or driven back to Earth. We can either wait for them to destroy us piece by piece, or we can defend ourselves. Defend ourselves how? Asked Admiral Thompson, who commanded the outer system defenses. Chang activated the wall display. It now showed different information. Shipbuilding facilities throughout the Sol system. Industrial centers that could be converted to military production. Scientific research stations that could develop new weapons. For 50 years, we have built machines of peace and healing. Now we will build machines of war. The Confederation thinks we are dangerous. Let us show them what dangerous really looks like. The room fell silent as the officers realized what Chun was suggesting. For generations, humanity had chosen cooperation over conflict. They had offered their hand in friendship to the galaxy. That hand had been slapped away and called a threat. The Confederation has superior numbers, General Rodriguez pointed out. They have larger ships, more advanced technology, and thousands of years of military experience. Chun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They also have traditions that make them predictable, honor codes that limit their tactics, and 3,000 years of believing they are superior to everyone else. They think we are primitive because we are young. They are about to learn that young species can be very dangerous when they are threatened. As the meeting continued, Chun thought about Dr. Kim and the 200 people who had died on the Hippocrates. They had gone to save alien children, and they had been murdered for their kindness. The Confederation called humans terrorists, but who was really spreading terror through the galaxy? The time for words was over. Humanity had offered peace and received war in return. Now they would show the Confederation what war really meant. 6 months after the destruction of the Hippocrates, Admiral Chun stood in the hidden shipyard inside Ceres asteroid. Around her, thousands of workers built ships unlike anything humanity had created before. These were not exploration vessels or cargo haulers. These were weapons designed for one purpose: to survive against superior numbers and win. How many ships will be ready for the first operation? Chun asked Chief Engineer Jackson. 47 combat vessels, Admiral. They are smaller than Confederation warships, but they are faster and harder to detect. We have also converted 63 civilian ships with hidden weapon systems. Chu nodded as she walked through the construction bay. The new warships looked nothing like the elegant vessels of the Confederation. They were dark and angular, built for stealth rather than beauty. Their hulls absorbed sensor signals instead of reflecting them. Their engines ran silent when needed, but the most important difference was not visible. These ships carried weapons that the Confederation had never seen before. Humanity had studied every recorded battle in galactic history. They had analyzed every weakness in alien ship design. They had created new technologies specifically to exploit those weaknesses. What about the special projects? Chun asked. Jackson smiled grimly. The nanobots are ready for deployment. The cyber warfare systems have been tested. The new missile designs exceeded all expectations during trials. Chun had authorized these projects herself, though they troubled her conscience. The Confederation fought wars according to ancient rules. They announced their attacks. They gave enemies chances to surrender. They tried to capture rather than destroy. These traditions made war more honorable, but they also made it predictable. Humanity would not be so courteous. Captain Martinez joined them as they toured the weapons testing facility. He had been promoted to head the new Strategic Operations Division. His job was to plan attacks that would hurt the Confederation while avoiding their superior firepower. "Admiral, we have identified the first target," he said. "A Zephyrian patrol squadron that has been attacking our merchant ships. They operate in the Rigel sector, far from their main fleet." "How many ships?" Chun asked. 5 heavy cruisers and their support vessels. They follow a predictable patrol pattern. More importantly, they have been broadcasting their victories against human ships. They want the galaxy to see how easily they can destroy us. Chun studied the tactical display that Martinez activated. The Zephyrian squadron moved through space with the confidence of predators who had never faced real opposition. Their ships were powerful and well-armored. In a direct fight, they could destroy twice their number of human vessels, but Chun had no intention of fighting them directly. "What do you propose?" she asked. "Operation Ghost Strike. We use converted cargo ships to appear vulnerable. When the Zephyrians move to attack, our real warships drop out of stealth and hit them from multiple directions. Fast, coordinated, no survivors to report what happened." The plan violated every rule of civilized warfare. There would be no warnings, no chances to surrender, no mercy for defeated enemies. Chun thought about the doctors and nurses who had died on the Hippocrates. They had offered mercy and received none. "Approved?" she said. "When do we launch?" "The squadron will be in position in 72 hours. Our ships are already moving to intercept." Chun left the asteroid shipyard and returned to Earth for final preparations. The transformation of human space had been remarkable. Every industrial facility now served the war effort. Factories that once built agricultural equipment now produced weapons. Research stations that had studied peaceful applications of technology now developed tools of destruction. The change went deeper than just manufacturing. The entire human population had united behind the war effort in a way that surprised even Chun. The attack on the Hippocrates had been broadcast throughout human space. Everyone had seen the footage of the medical ship exploding. Everyone knew that their species faced extinction. Dr. Sarah Kim had become the most important voice supporting the military buildup. Her speech to the Earth Assembly had been watched by every human in the galaxy. "They call us terrorists," she had said, "but who is spreading terror? We sent medical supplies to save children, and they murdered us for it. We offered friendship, and they responded with genocide. If fighting back makes us terrorists, then let us be the most terrifying terrorists the galaxy has ever seen." Chun reviewed the final attack plans in her private office. Operation Ghost Strike would be humanity's first real military action against the Confederation. If it succeeded, it would prove that humans could fight effectively against superior alien technology. If it failed, it might be humanity's last chance to strike back. The operation began exactly as planned. 3 converted cargo ships dropped out of hyperspace in the Rigel sector, broadcasting distress signals. They appeared to be civilian vessels fleeing from human space after Confederation attacks. Their cargo holds seemed full of refugees and valuable supplies. The Zephyrian patrol squadron detected them immediately. Just as Martinez had predicted, they moved to intercept. The alien commander broadcast a standard warning demanding surrender. Human vessels, you are trespassing in Confederation space. Prepare to be boarded and search for terrorist materials. The cargo ships responded with fear and confusion, exactly as real civilian vessels would. They asked for mercy, claimed they. Where only refugees begged to be allowed to pass through to neutral space, the Zephyrians showed no interest in mercy. They had destroyed too many human ships to feel sympathy now. Their cruisers moved into boarding positions, confident that they faced helpless prey. That was when the real attack began. 30 human warships dropped out of stealth mode simultaneously. They had been waiting in the system for hours, their engines cold, their weapons charged. The Zephyrians had no warning before the first missiles struck their ships. The battle lasted exactly 11 minutes. Human ships attacked from 6 different directions, using tactics no alien species had ever seen. They targeted weapon systems first, then engines, then life support. When Zephyrian ships tried to call for help, human cyber warfare systems jammed their communications. The converted cargo ships revealed their true nature as their hulls opened to release swarms of attack drones. The drones were too small for Zephyrian weapons to target effectively, but large enough to carry powerful explosives. They struck the alien ships at their weakest points, causing internal explosions that tore the vessels apart. One Zephyrian cruiser tried to escape by jumping to hyperspace. Human ships had been waiting for this. New gravity mines activated around the fleeing vessel, creating a field that prevented hyperspace travel. The cruiser was trapped and destroyed within moments. When the battle ended, all 5 Zephyrian ships were gone. Debris floated where proud warships had been minutes before. Not a single human vessel had been seriously damaged. Chun watched the battle recordings in her command center. The footage showed the complete destruction of an enemy force that should have been superior. More importantly, it showed that human tactics could overcome alien advantages, but the real test came afterward. The Zephyrian squadron had been expected to report to their headquarters. When they failed to do so, search teams would be sent to investigate. Those teams would find only wreckage and would have to guess what had happened. The confusion lasted for 3 days. Confederation intelligence services could not explain how an entire patrol squadron had vanished. Some believed the ships had suffered mechanical failures. Others thought they might have been destroyed by space pirates. A few suspected human involvement, but dismissed it as impossible. Humans were supposed to be primitive and weak. How could they destroy 5 heavy cruisers without taking any losses themselves? Admiral Chun used those 3 days of confusion to launch more attacks. Human strike teams hit Confederation supply convoys in 7 different systems. Communication relay stations went offline throughout Zephyrian space. A major shipyard suffered a series of mysterious explosions that destroyed 3 warships under construction. Each attack followed the same pattern. Fast, precise, devastating strikes that left no survivors to report what had happened. The Confederation leadership began to realize they faced a new kind of enemy, but they still did not understand what they were truly up against. They thought humans were using guerrilla tactics because they were too weak for direct confrontation. They did not realize that humanity had chosen to fight this way because it was more effective than traditional warfare. Chun smiled as she read the intercepted Confederation communications. Their military commanders were arguing about how to respond. Some wanted to increase patrols. Others demanded better security around important facilities. All of them assumed that humans would eventually make mistakes and reveal themselves. They were about to learn that humans had been preparing for this war much longer than anyone suspected, and that their mistakes would be far more costly than alien arrogance could imagine. 1 year after the first human strike, Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as it approached the Zephyrian home system. Behind her ship followed the largest human fleet ever assembled. 200 warships moved through space. Like a dark cloud, their hulls absorbing light and sensor signals, the war had changed everything. What began as isolated attacks had grown into a campaign that threatened the entire Confederation. Human forces had struck targets across 12 star systems. Supply lines were broken, communication networks had failed. Fear spread through alien worlds as their populations realized they were no longer safe. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Confederation fleet," reported Communications Officer Torres. Chun looked at the display showing enemy positions. The Confederation had gathered over 400 ships to defend the Zephyrian homeworld. Every major species had sent vessels. It was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. "Put it through," Chun ordered. The main screen showed Supreme Archon Kethver himself. The Zephyrian leader looked older than when Chin had last seen him at Kepler Station. His dark eyes held anger, but also something new. Fear. "Admiral Chun," he said, his voice carrying across space. "You have brought war to innocent worlds. You have attacked civilian targets. You have shown the galaxy the true nature of humanity." Chun stepped forward so her image would be clearly visible to the alien fleet. "Innocent worlds? You mean the worlds that cheered when you destroyed our medical ship? The worlds that celebrated when you murdered doctors trying to save children? We acted in self-defense against terrorist threats. You acted in hatred and fear. You could not accept that humans might be your equals. So you created lies to justify our destruction." Shu's voice grew harder. "But we are still here, Archon, and we remember everything." Behind Chun, the human fleet continued its approach. The ships moved in formations that no Confederation military academy had ever taught. They spread out in 3 dimensions, using gravity fields and asteroid shadows to mask their true numbers. "You cannot win this battle," Kethver said. "We have twice your numbers. Our ships are larger and more heavily armed. Surrender now, and we will show you the mercy you have not shown us." Chun almost smiled. "You still do not understand, do you? This was never about winning or losing battles. This was about teaching the galaxy a lesson about consequences." The first phase of the battle began without warning. Human ships that had been disguised as asteroids suddenly activated and attacked the Confederation's rear positions. Cloaked vessels dropped stealth fields and launched missiles at targets that thought they were safe. The Confederation fleet tried to respond, but their formations were designed for traditional warfare. They expected enemies to approach directly and announce their intentions. Instead, they faced attacks from directions they had not even considered. Admiral Veltar of the Altarian fleet sent an emergency message to all Confederation ships. "The humans are using tactics we have never seen. They attack from stealth positions and target our weakest ships first." Chun watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. Human forces struck with surgical precision, destroying supply ships and communication vessels while avoiding the heavily armed battleships. Each attack was calculated to cause maximum disruption with minimum risk. The nanobots that Chief Engineer Jackson had developed proved devastatingly effective. Released into space, they were too small for alien sensors to detect. But when they reached enemy ships, they began eating through hull plating and electronic systems. Confederation vessels found themselves losing power and life support without understanding why. "Admiral," reported Captain Martinez from his position at the tactical station, "the Centauri Federation ships are requesting permission to withdraw. They claim they cannot fight an enemy that attacks without honor." "Denied," Chun replied. "They chose to be here. They chose to support the species that murdered our people. Now they will face the consequences of that choice." The cyber warfare systems that humanity had developed began their own attack. Confederation ships relied heavily on computer networks to coordinate their movements. Human hackers had spent months studying these systems, finding weaknesses that alien engineers had never considered. One by one, enemy ships began losing control of their weapons and engines. Some fired on their own allies by mistake. Others found themselves unable to maneuver as their navigation systems failed. The carefully organized Confederation fleet began to fall apart. Supreme Archon Kethver tried to rally his forces, All ships maintain formation. Do not let human trickery divide us. We fight for the preservation of galactic civilization. But his words carried less weight as the battle continued. Confederation casualties mounted while human losses remained minimal. The alien commanders had trained for honorable combat between equals. They had no experience fighting an enemy that used every advantage and showed no mercy. The turning point came when human strike teams infiltrated 3 Zephyrian battleships using stolen transporter technology. The teams moved through the alien vessels like ghosts, sabotaging critical systems and eliminating key personnel. Within minutes, the most powerful ships in the Confederation fleet were drifting helplessly in space. Admiral Chun activated the fleet-wide communication system. Her voice reached every ship in both fleets, human and alien alike. 50 years ago, humanity came to you with open hands and open hearts. We offered our knowledge, our friendship, our lives in service to galactic peace. We shared our medical advances freely. We helped solve problems that had troubled your worlds for centuries. We asked only to be accepted as equals among the stars. The battle continued around them as she spoke, but both sides seemed to pause to listen. You repaid our trust with treachery. You turned our gifts into evidence of guilt. You murdered our doctors and called them terrorists. You drove our civilians from their homes and claimed it was justice. You tried to destroy us simply because we were young and different. A massive explosion lit up space as another Confederation ship succumbed to human attacks. The alien fleet was in full retreat now, their formation completely broken. We learned. From your betrayal, we adapted to your hatred. We became the weapon you claimed we already were. But remember this, we did not choose this path. You forced us onto it when you decided that peace with humanity was impossible. Chun paused, letting her words sink in across the battlefield. Today you face the consequences of your choices. Every human ship you destroyed, every civilian you murdered, every act of cruelty you committed in the name of galactic security, we have not forgotten any of it. And we have come to collect the debt you owe? The Confederation fleet was in full retreat now. Ships jumped to hyperspace as quickly as their damaged systems allowed. Some were too badly damaged to escape and were destroyed as they tried to flee. Others simply surrendered, their crews no longer willing to fight against impossible odds. Supreme Archon Kethver's flagship was among the last to withdraw. As it prepared to jump to hyperspace, Chun received one final transmission from the Zephyrian. Leader, this is not over, Admiral. The galaxy will not accept human dominance. Other species will unite against you as they united against us. Chun looked at the retreating ship with cold eyes. Perhaps they will. But they will do so knowing what happens to those who betray humanity. They will remember that we offered peace once, and we will not make that mistake again. The battle for the Zephyrian homeworld was over. Human forces had achieved complete victory against a fleet twice their size. But she knew this was not truly the end. It was the beginning of a new age in galactic history. The Confederation would never again be the peaceful alliance it once was. Trust between species had been shattered. Fear now ruled where cooperation had once flourished. And at the center of it all stood humanity, no longer seeking acceptance but demanding respect. As the human fleet regrouped around the Zephyrian homeworld, Chun thought about the path that had brought them here. They had begun as explorers seeking friendship among the stars. They had become conquerors who ruled through strength and fear. The galaxy had taught them that mercy was weakness and trust was folly. Now they would teach that lesson to every species that dared oppose them. They had offered unity once, in good faith and open hearts. They would not make that offer again, but they would defend their right to exist among the stars, no matter the cost in fire and steel.